You'll come crawling back. That's what she said, her voice a low, confident hiss that cut through the sudden, cavernous silence of our living room. The last of her friends had scurried out, their cheap perfume and nervous energy lingering in the air like a bad memory. She was on the floor, not in defeat, but as a calculated gambit. Her black dress was pulled around her on the white marble, a stark and dramatic image she'd no doubt composed in her head. Her face, usually a mask of practiced charm, was contorted into something that was meant to look like desperate love, but the fury in her eyes betrayed the performance. You built this life for me, Mark. For us, she whispered, reaching a hand out. You can't just walk away from it. You'll be lost without me. You'll come crawling back. I looked down at her, at the woman I had once loved with an ache so profound it felt like a fundamental part of my own architecture. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even the ghost of that love. There was only a cold, clean emptiness, like a building stripped down to its steel frame. I didn't say a word. I just turned, my footsteps echoing on the marble, and walked out the door. That was 6 months ago. As far as I know, she's still waiting. Let me take you back. 5 years ago, our life was a masterpiece of our own design. I met Zara at a gallery opening in Soho. I was a junior partner at a burgeoning architecture firm, and she was a force of nature in public relations. She moved through the crowded room with an effortless grace, her laughter a bright, captivating sound. She spoke about art and culture with a passion that felt genuine, and when her eyes met mine, I felt seen in a way I hadn't realized I was craving. We talked for hours, ignoring the pretentious art and the free champagne. By the end of the night, I was completely undone. Our courtship was a whirlwind of ambition and affection. We were two people on the rise, building our careers and our future in tandem. I designed, she networked. I built structures of glass and steel. She built empires of influence. We bought a sprawling loft in Tribeca, a testament to our shared success. I filled it with clean lines, minimalist furniture, and warm light. She filled it with people, with noise, with life. I loved the balance. I thought we were a team, a perfect synergy of foundation and facade. I worked tirelessly, driven by a desire to give her everything. Not because she asked, but because seeing her happy was my primary motivation. A weekend trip to Paris? Done. The Birkin bag she'd pointed out in a magazine? It was her birthday gift. I wasn't buying her love. I thought I was celebrating it. I saw the material things as monuments to our success, markers of the beautiful life we were constructing together. She would wrap her arms around my neck, her eyes shining, and say, "You're the best man, Mark. You give me the world." And I believed her. I believed I was her world. The first crack in the foundation was almost imperceptible, a slight shift in tone, a subtle tremor of disrespect. It started at dinner parties with her new, flashier friends. She began introducing me not as her husband, the architect, but as her provider. It was always framed as a joke. "Oh, don't mind Mark, he's quiet. He's too busy thinking about how to pay for all my bad habits," she'd say, laughing as her friends tittered along. I'd smile, a tight, uncomfortable stretch of my lips, telling myself it was just her sense of humor. But the jokes became more frequent, the barbs sharper. She'd belittle my taste in front of guests. "I keep telling him we need to replace this couch. It's so functional," she'd sigh, gesturing at the custom-made leather sofa I designed myself. Then came Julian. He was a property developer, oozing the kind of slick, inherited confidence that I, a man who had built himself from nothing, inherently distrusted. He was everything I wasn't: loud, brash, dripping in designer logos. Zara was mesmerized by him. Suddenly, all her stories were about Julian. Julian's yacht party in the Hamptons. Julian's new penthouse overlooking the park. Julian's thoughts on the market. I became a footnote in the narrative of her life. The spending escalated. It was no longer about celebrating our life, but about funding hers. Credit card statements arrived with staggering totals from boutiques I'd never heard of, for items I never saw. When I tried to talk to her about it, about saving for our future, she'd turn it around on me. "Are you saying I can't have nice things? After all I do to maintain our image? This is an investment, Mark. It's about our brand." She had started referring to our marriage as a brand. I created a small test. I told her a major project had been delayed and that we'd need to be more careful with money for the next 6 months. It wasn't true. My firm had just landed its biggest contract to date, and a substantial bonus was heading my way. I wanted to see her reaction. Would she be my partner, ready to tighten her belt and face the challenge with me? Her face fell. The warmth vanished, replaced by a cold, flinty disappointment. "Well, that's just great, Mark," she snapped. "Julian is taking a group to St. Bart's next month. I suppose I'll have to cancel." There was no concern for my stress or the state of my business. There was only the cancellation of her vacation. The test had given me an answer, and I didn't like it one bit. But I still wasn't ready to face the truth. I told myself she was just stressed. I was a fool, a willing architect of my own delusion. The final demolition of that delusion came 3 weeks later. I was supposed to be in Chicago for a 3-day site visit, but the final inspection was finished a day early. I flew home, wanting to surprise her. I let myself into our silent apartment, the afternoon sun slanting through the massive windows. I was about to call out her name when I heard her voice from the study. She was on the phone, her tone light and conspiratorial. I paused in the hallway, my hand still on my briefcase. "Honestly, Chloe, it's a nightmare. He's talking about budgets again." "A budget? Can you imagine?" She laughed, a sound that was now ugly and sharp to my ears. "I just have to hold on for a few more months. His big bonus from the Westfield project is coming through in the spring. Once that's in the joint account, I'm having my lawyer draw up the papers." My blood ran cold. I couldn't feel my hands. "Julian has been so patient," she continued, her voice dropping to a purr. "He knows what I'm worth. He's not like Mark. Julian sees me. Mark just sees a pretty accessory for his quiet, boring life. He's a workhorse, a good, reliable workhorse. And I'm about to cash in on my prize stallion." I leaned against the wall, the plaster cold against my back. My chest was tight, a band of steel constricting my lungs. It wasn't just the affair with Julian. It was the cold, calculated nature of it all. I wasn't a husband to her. I was an asset, a bridge to a better life that didn't include me. My love, my work, my entire identity had been reduced to a financial instrument. Quietly, I pulled out my phone. I saw the red dot of the voice memo app and pressed it. I didn't know why. Instinct, maybe. I slid the phone out of my pocket and placed it gently on the floor, just around the corner from the study doorway. Then I walked silently back to the front door, opened it, and closed it loudly, shouting, "Honey, I'm home." Got done early. Her panicked shuffling from the study was the first note in a symphony of lies. She emerged with a fake, plastered-on smile, telling me how much she'd missed me. I played my part. I was the loving, oblivious husband. We had dinner. We talked about our days. All the while, the recording of her betrayal sat on my phone, a toxic little secret waiting to be deployed. That night, as she slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The man who had loved her was gone. In his place was someone else, someone colder, more patient, and far more methodical. The architect was about to design his demolition. The next morning, I made the first call. My lawyer, Helen, was a woman I'd known for years. She was sharp, pragmatic, and had the demeanor of a shark that smiled. I met her at a discreet coffee shop far from my usual haunts. I didn't tell her the whole story at first. I just said I needed to protect my assets ahead of a major windfall. "Trouble at home, Mark?" she asked, her eyes missing nothing. "Just being prudent," I said. Over the next 2 weeks, we moved with quiet efficiency. Helen helped me create an irrevocable trust for my shares in the firm and my future earnings. It was a complex legal maneuver, but it effectively walled off the bulk of my wealth, making it untouchable in any future divorce proceeding. We established new bank accounts in my name only. The day my 7-figure bonus was scheduled to be paid, I had the funds wired directly into one of these new, shielded accounts. The joint account Zara so eagerly watched remained untouched, with only our standard operating funds inside. I felt a grim satisfaction watching her check the balance on her banking app, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Did your bonus get delayed?" she'd ask, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, some red tape with accounting," I'd lie smoothly. "Should clear up in a few weeks." Every lie felt like a small, sharp victory. I was no longer building a life with her. I was deconstructing one. I became an actor in my own home. I was attentive, affectionate, the perfect husband. I bought her flowers. I complimented her dresses. I listened to her endless stories about Julian and her vapid friends, all while gathering evidence. I made copies of credit card statements showing her exorbitant spending. I documented her frequent girls' nights that I knew were spent with him. I was building a case, brick by painful brick. Zara, meanwhile, bloomed in her ignorance. My placid behavior emboldened her. She believed I was a fool, completely blind to her manipulations. Her arrogance became her weakness. She started leaving her laptop open, her texts with Julian barely concealed. She became careless, so certain of her victory that she couldn't see the trap closing around her. The dramatic irony was suffocating. She was planning her glittering future, never realizing I was methodically dismantling it. Her crowning act of hubris was our 10th anniversary party. It was her idea, a lavish affair to be held in our loft. "We have to celebrate a decade, darling," she chirped. "We'll invite everyone. It will be the party of the year." I knew what it was. It was a victory lap for her. A final public display of the life she was about to steal, a performance for the friends who were all in on her secret. It was her stage, and I was merely a prop. I agreed to everything, even suggesting we install a new high-end sound system for the event, an idea she loved. She had no idea I was helping her construct the theater of her own downfall. The night of the party arrived. Our apartment was unrecognizable, transformed by florists and caterers into a scene of opulent excess. It was filled with her people, loud, shallow, and dressed in expensive clothes paid for with my money. My few Real friends stood in a corner, their expressions a mixture of concern and confusion at my strained cheerfulness. Zara was radiant, the perfect hostess. She floated through the room, a glass of champagne permanently attached to her hand, accepting compliments on her home, her taste, her party. I watched her from across the room, a detached observer at my own execution. Finally, the moment came. She tapped a glass for silence. The crowd quieted. She stood in the center of the room, bathed in the soft light, and began her toast. It was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive performance art. "To my husband, Mark," she began, her voice dripping with manufactured emotion. "The man who makes all of this possible. For 10 years, he has worked so hard, so tirelessly, so that I could build this beautiful world for us. He's the strong, silent foundation, and I am, well, I'm the part everyone gets to see." She laughed, and her friends roared along with her. "Thank you, my love, for giving me everything I've ever wanted." To us. The room erupted in applause. People raised their glasses. Zara looked at me, her smile a triumphant, condescending smirk. She expected me to give a speech in return, to play my part as the grateful workhorse. I remained standing as the applause died down. The silence stretched. All eyes were on me. I didn't look at the crowd. I looked only at her. "Thank you, Zara," I said, my voice calm and even. "That was beautiful." I paused, letting the tension build. "I have a gift for you as well. It's not quite as public, but I think you'll find it memorable." I nodded toward the back of the room. Helen, my lawyer, dressed in a severe but elegant dark suit, stepped forward from the shadows. The few murmurs in the crowd died instantly. She walked directly to Zara and held out a thick, legal-sized envelope. Zara stared at it, her smile frozen on her face. "What is this?" "Open it," I said softly. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope. She tore it open. Her eyes scanned the first page. I saw the exact moment the words registered. "Divorce papers." The color drained from her face, leaving a sickly, pale mask. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the marble floor. The sound was like a gunshot. "But what?" she stammered, looking at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I think you know what," I said. Then I reached into my pocket, took out my phone, and touched the screen. The new sound system I'd had installed hummed to life. And then, her own voice filled the dead silence of the room, crisp and clear. "He's a workhorse, a good, reliable workhorse. And I'm about to cash in on my prize stallion." The recording played for only 10 seconds, but it was enough. A collective gasp went through the room. Her friends, the ones who had laughed at her jokes, now stared at her with a mixture of horror and fascination. Julian, standing near the bar, looked like he'd been struck by lightning before he turned and practically ran for the door. Zara stood frozen, the papers clutched in her hand. The public humiliation was total. It was a perfect, silent tableau of ruin. Within minutes, the apartment was empty. The expensive food lay untouched, the champagne undrunk. It was just the two of us, standing in the wreckage of our life. The rage came first. She threw a glass against the wall, screaming obscenities at me. I didn't flinch. I just stood there, letting her storm burn itself out. When the anger subsided, the desperation began. The tears came, thick and black with mascara. She sank to the floor, her designer dress pooling around her. It was a calculated, theatrical move. The final act. "You can't do this, Mark," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I love you. It was just talk. Stupid talk." Julian meant nothing. "It's over, Zara," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "The locks will be changed tomorrow. You have until noon to have your things removed." That's when her eyes hardened. The mask slipped, and I saw the cold, calculating woman from the recording. She looked up at me from the floor, a smug, venomous certainty returning to her face. "You'll come crawling back," she hissed. "You built this life for me, for us. You can't just walk away from it. You'll be lost without me. You'll come crawling back." I looked at her one last time, a pathetic queen on a marble throne of her own making, and I walked away. The unraveling was swift and systematic. Her attempt to fight the divorce was a joke. Helen presented the mountain of financial evidence. The hidden accounts she'd started, the reckless spending in the months leading up to her planned departure. The trust protected my business and my bonus. The prenuptial agreement we'd signed a decade ago, one she had laughed at, held firm. She was not entitled to my company. She was entitled to half the value of the loft and half the money in our joint accounts, an amount that was, by then, pitifully small. The sale of the loft was the final nail in the coffin. She was forced to move into a small, rented apartment in a neighborhood she used to mock. Her friends, whose loyalty was transactional, vanished. They were friends with a lifestyle, not a person. Julian, her supposed future, had blocked her number the night of the party. He wanted a wealthy partner, not a scandal-ridden divorcee with a paltry settlement. I, on the other hand, felt a profound sense of liberation. I moved into a sleek, modern apartment downtown with a view of the skyline I helped build. It was smaller, cleaner, and entirely my own. My work flourished, unburdened by the constant pressure to fund a life I didn't even want. I reconnected with my real friends, the ones who had stood by me quietly, and found joy in simple things again. A good book, a quiet dinner, the satisfaction of a blueprint coming to life. 6 months have passed. Just last week, I ran into Chloe, Zara's former best friend, at a cafe. She looked uncomfortable, but she stopped to talk. She told me Zara was struggling. She'd lost her high-powered PR job because the story of our divorce party had made the rounds. She was working some low-level marketing gig, bitter and angry at the world. "She still talks about you," Chloe said, stirring her latte. "She's convinced you're going to realize you made a mistake. She tells everyone you'll be knocking on her door any day now." I just smiled, a real smile this time. I thanked her for the coffee and left. As I walked out into the bright afternoon sun, I thought of Zara. I pictured her in that small apartment, surrounded by the few trinkets she had left, waiting for the workhorse to come back to the stable, waiting for a man to crawl back to a life that was nothing but a beautiful, hollow facade, waiting on a floor that was no longer made of marble.